transmission begins with static and intermittent beeps. The sound of breathing is evident. It's tense and hurried. The camera feed from Mission Control flickers with the distorted image of Cathal Murphy, his face illuminated by the control panel he's behind in the ship he's in, with the lights flickering on it. As we hear his voice,
Mission Control. This is Murphy on the Orion capsule. Do you read?
There's static and a pause.
Mission Control, do you read? Hello? I'm not sure what's happening. The systems are going haywire
And he pauses. You see him look away from the camera at a very specific place within his ship, though you can't see it. The camera's not facing that way. The sound of the spacecraft's alarms blaring in the background, and a low humming noise begins to rise. Almost inaudible at first, but slowly growing in intensity, intermittently disrupting the video feed.
I tried to recalibrate the navigation. It's like the stars, they're shifting? Not moving, not changing. I can't explain it. I can't make heads or tails of which direction.
Another pause. And you hear the sound of something tapping against the hull. You hear the creak of metal that groans under an immense amount of pressure. And his voice, it lowers into a whisper, as if afraid to be heard.
I've initiated Protocol Delta, but nothing's responding. There's something. It's massive. It's in the space between the stars.
The static, it intensifies. You're getting more of that now than his own image. And when it finally clears, Murphy's tone, it's frantic, it's desperate.
Listen to me. Listen. If you're reading me,
And that transmission goes completely into static. And the last image that's frozen on the screen is his face, his eyes wide with terror, and perhaps some fascination, as he looks somewhere opposite the camera, with the reflection in his eyes of a black splotch. But somewhere else, the early morning sky over New Haven, Connecticut. The horizon tinged with the soft glow of dawn as we see that iconic outline of the state-of-the-art rocket. The Prometheus stands tall on the launch pad. Steam and smoke swirling around its base as the final pre-launch checks are completed. You hear in your intercom a message that seems to be addressed to the world.
the next chapter in human exploration is about to be written. Here at the edge of known space and the unknown, the Prometheus awaits its journey into the cosmic dark.
The transmission is clearly going out to all forms: radio, television. This is state-of-the-art 1965 in the United States. A screen on your dashboard displays mission control. You see a man in his early 40s, black hair neatly parted down the middle, and a standard issue white short-sleeve shirt, black tie, and dark trousers, with a pocket protector and pens that stick out, as you might imagine.
All right, we're off for a moment. Warren, please begin pre-flight checklist.
Easy enough. Command. Run a full system diagnostic.
And there's a pause, a delay,
Full checklist complete. All good for launch.
Excellent. I'll handle any outstanding inspections manually. Command, you say we're clear to launch? Let's get this show started.
By my means, we're clear to launch.
Warren, we have a recording from your cousin Matilda. Should I put it through? Well wishes for the flight.
By all means, put it through. Tilly.
The communication cuts. You hear some static, and then you hear,
Hey Stan, it's Tilly. I just wanted to say good luck out there in the stars. You are always chasing the impossible, huh? I heard about Henry. It's a real shame you couldn't make it back for his farewell. Family should be there for things like that, right? But I hope I guess you've got bigger things on your plate now. Anyway, take care. I hope it's worth it.
Don't go.
Oh, Walter, what would the point even be?
You actually came to see your brother.
What are you doing here?
He's a good mate.
Don't start with your bull.
Do you ever
Stop.
wonder... You won't even let me say my piece.
I don't want to hear it. My brother is dying.
And you're what? Leaving? I'm just gonna say it. Don't you ever wonder what life could have been like?
Get back to your wife and kid.
Look me in the eye and tell me you don't wish you could change the past.
No, get back in your car. You don't get to see my brother. You don't get to weasel your way further into my family than you already have. Get to Tilly. Be the husband my cousin deserves, and stay away from the rest of them.
Stan. I just
That's
wish...
the thing, Walter. No matter what wish you, or Ernest, or anyone could make, it could never change the fact that I have made a choice then, and I make the same choice now.
So that's it then. You're just gonna leave your brother dying in a hospital bed? It's all well and good, so long as you get to see the stars, right?
Piss off.
What's it gonna be then, Stanley? Who's gonna watch over Ferguson while your entire system's away? A layover ain't far enough. Stanley!
It will never be you. I never want to see you again. Not ever. Not even this time. I'm going to drive away and I'm never going to think of you again. And if I do happen to cross paths with you once more, it will only be to rescue Tilly from the fraud of the man she married. You think we're the same, but I'm nothing like you. You think I don't know what I want? But that's where you and everyone else are wrong. I know exactly who I am, and I'd look death in the face and say the same thing if we were ever to cross paths again. So I suggest you don't get in my way. With a bit of liquid welling up in his eyes, he lifts the panel and begins the launch sequence.
The cover on the switch is flipped, and you begin turning on each of the individual thrusters for the launch, getting them in a ready state. You hear mission control.
Launch is ready. Dr. Macready, final check please on the vitals for all of our passengers.
Command, run a diagnostic on the crew.
Diagnostic. Checking health and physiological assessments. Raleigh St. Clair. All normal. Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready. All normal. Stanley Fergus Warren. Slight, elevated heart rate, but all normal.
Rosemary's eyes dart to Stanley, looking for visual confirmation that he is good to go.
Everything checks out.
This is Macready, confirming good to launch.
Good to launch. Macready, we have a message, seems from your father, Benny. Should I put it through?
Belay that, please.
Roger that. Raleigh, I hope you're up for it. No message for you from anyone, but we're ready to open up the live feed to the people of the world once you are.
Well, I hope I'm ready. A bit too late to back out now. It's fine.
Are you having second thoughts, Raleigh?
No. None at all.
Should I put us through?
He looks behind himself, sees Rosemary, sees Stanley. Gives a bit of a nod. He puts down his sunglasses. You can see his eyes. You folks ready to make history?
Damn right.
Let's get to it then.
All set.
People of the world. The Prometheus is a state-of-the-art ship that's set to go on a 4-year mission into space. We're going to transmit a mission now from inside the deck. This will be the last transmission until they're settled on their trip. To those of the ship of the Prometheus, Godspeed and we wish you luck. Raleigh, you're on.
Thank you. You see, as he takes out a bit of folded piece of paper from his breast pocket, as he sort of flicks it open, adjusts his glasses once more.
Well, here we are. A hearty greeting to you all, to the amber waves of grain, to the purple mountain majesty, and all other lands that dot our fine planet. This is the voice of Raleigh St. Clair. By the time you hear this, we will have already pierced the spacious skies overhead, and are now bound for the beyond. This mission we are embarking upon is the result of decades of rigorous work by the hands and minds of the most exceptional individuals that grace God's green earth. A true scientific marvel, a man-made miracle. Myself and my colleagues, Dr. Rosemary Macready, wonderfully intelligent and graceful in her drive for discovery. Stanley Warren, a true light needed in such darkness that is space. An optimistic yet headstrong family man. And myself, a public figure in need of no summary or description, the voice of Americana, Raleigh St. Clair, here to lead you through this frontier. It was the ejection of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden that began the era of man in earnest, and so it is now, as our collected knowledge has burdened us with an insatiable curiosity for what belies beyond the stars. We must now leave our beautiful garden and begin the process anew. What shall we find? New life? A new Jerusalem where humanity can thrive beyond our terrestrial bonds. May we indeed pierce heaven and come face to face with God himself, and at last answer the question of our own existence. And that, my dear listener, is the heart of human exceptionality. It is what separates us from the beasts. That we must answer these questions. That we must know what is unknown. With these messages I send to you and shall continue to send. With God as my witness, we shall find these answers. And as we learn, so too shall all of humanity continue to grow and thrive. From all of us aboard the Prometheus, this is Raleigh St. Clair saying good luck, goodbye, and God bless America. On behalf of the people of New Haven, Connecticut, the United States, and the world, Godspeed.
Damn right.
Stanley, take us away.
Buckle up, Raleigh. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the first part.
Oh, this is what I trained for.
He engages the launch sequence.
20 seconds and counting.
We gather here today to honor Henry Warren, the devoted stuntman.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
A cherished brother, son, and friend.
12, 11, 10, 9.
His untimely passing serves as a poignant reminder of the perils of inebriation.
Ignition sequence start.
Though Henry is no longer with us, his spirit continues to live on in our memories.
6, 5, 4.
Farewell, Henry.
3, 2, 1, 0.
May you find eternal peace, riding on the endless roads under boundless skies.
All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program.
The ship, it rises from the ground with bellowing fire beneath it. And I would like for you to roll a focus check for the launch.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Everyone? Or just Stanley?
Just Stanley, unless you're helping.
I would like to help. I will spend a drive. And Rosemary turns, reaches out as far as she can. I'm assuming they're strapped in, and lays a hand on Stanley's arm, thinking of how his heart was racing just a few minutes ago, and gives him a reassuring nod, like, you got this.
Right. And so that would mean that I would, because I have 0 in focus, I would add 1 dice for her drive. Correct? And then I could also burn a drive from intuition to add a 2nd dice.
Yes, I believe so.
I'm going to burn my 2nd drive in intuition. Stanley is going to, and to allow his roll to have a pool of 3, and I'm clicking the roll. Here goes.
Okay.
We have a total of 2, 5, 6. That is a success.
You see the level that demonstrates that the ship is pointing upward. This is a rocket. It has to go one direction, which is up to space. And you're able to keep that right on the money. As the ship launches, you gain so much speed that you hear a bang as it pierces the sound barrier, leaving the Earth. And before long, through the little porthole window in this capsule, you see everything you've known. The world, the country, the oceans, reaching far into the distance until it's just a blend of green and blue that is Earth. And you see the infinite beyond in front of you, dark space and stars, and the larger portion of the ship that has been assembled out into space a piece at a time as your launch capsule now is approaching. As the capsule reaches space, you in your chairs, the 3 of you, feel yourselves starting to float up, being restrained by your harnesses intentionally as you've reached 0 gravity. And now, with a 6, as you get to that fine maneuvering, the finesse that's required to dock this thing against the larger ship, there's a tension in the air that has quickly subsided when you hear the latch of the airlock connecting to the ship you're approaching. Once that capsule locks in around the ship, all of a sudden there's a pull back down. The ship generates its own artificial gravity, and you're able to walk into it.
Stanley hadn't realized that he had actually grasped Rosemary's hand in the assistance of him. He lets it go quickly. A quick look over his shoulder of Thanks.
Rosemary nods and shakes her hand a little bit.
The small door behind you that previously was connected to the boosters that would have brought you up here, they have since fallen into the atmosphere and likely burned up on their way back. That door is now connected to the ship that you'll be spending the rest of your time on. And it opens. Stanley, as the pilot, you're the first to stand from your chair, unbuckling those straps and moving to the door that opens as it anticipates your birth into this spaceship. As Stanley walks in, what does he do?
As the door opens for a split second, Stanley shakes his head as he thinks for just a moment that he may have seen Henry's face. The image of his brother who's passed. He shakes it off, pushes through, and as he's walking onto the ship, Command, start pilot's log 1965-1. Aboard the Prometheus for Orpheus's Lament.
Starting pilot's log. You may begin when you're ready.
This is U.S. Flight Marshal Stanley Warren, former commando with the Australian Army Special Air Service Regiment. A crew of 3, our post-inception for our voyage, the Prometheus. Soon to set sail through the cosmos. All 3 healthy, in good spirits, primarily. Ferguson, I wish you could see this. It sure is beyond our world, and I know you can relate to the excitement felt aboard. Being chosen for this, it wasn't just a personal victory for your father, but a triumph for every young man who dared to dream big and to work hard to achieve those dreams. I just wish your Uncle Henry could have been a part. Stanley is a brave man who has been trained from his time in the military to compartmentalize any kind of fear. But the magnitude of this trip is truly yet to sink in as he marvels at how far he and his 2 companions have come. A man used to the skyways, leaving the stratosphere behind is taking his potential to the next level. I spent the past several years partnered with
The Gemini Project, training with 2 others. To my colleagues, these stars are just as much yours. And as for the team that was chosen, well...
We're prepared for the trip anyway. Stanley brushes up against his 5 o'clock shadow growing on his face already from the busy morning. He has a strong chin, and he takes a glance back towards Raleigh and Marigold. While the good doctor will surely see to our health, and our resident entertainer, St. Clair here, will primarily be keeping those back home informed, I'll be the main one piloting the ship, keeping up major engineering maintenance, and if you'll allow me a flash of grit, ensuring the safety of those aboard. My time in the military was spent as a team builder, and over the next several years, may that serve us all now more than ever. That's a commitment to not only this mission, but to those back home who were just as deserving. Until next time, this is Stanley Warren. Command. End pilot's log.
Ending pilot's log.
And as you step onto the ship, you see the rooms that you'll be staying in. Small, efficient. You see one common room with a table in the center, a place for you 3 on this trip to meet. And this is meant to be a trip of some relative comfort. One room is special. Wasn't really announced to you that it would be here, but you see a record player and some soft seating. It almost reminds you of what it might be like to be home. And then, of course, besides a command bridge and a medical bay, that does encapsulate the entirety of the ship. You're floating right now in orbit of Earth, and when you're ready, Stanley, you can engage the flight, the round-trip flight, that is, for this space exploration mission.
He heads straight for the command bridge and turns and looks at Rosemary and Raleigh and says, "Do you want to get settled in? We can go when we're all ready."
Yes.
You see Raleigh is kind of confidently striding into the main common area, his bag of personal belongings kind of slung around. He says, I'll be honest, I used to hate going on boats, loved going on planes. This is something altogether different and yet still... Can't quite put my finger on it. But anyway, you see as he enters into the common area, he says, I'm about to make myself very comfortable, so why don't you go and do the launch.
You do that, St. Clair. Not getting cold feet, are you?
No, I'm just doing what you do. The traveler's sort tends to make any house a home. So, let's just spend the 4 years we have together. Let's get off on the right foot, shall we?
Certainly.
Rosemary picks a cabin. These are curtained off. She picks a cabin, she beelines straight for it. She immediately zips it closed.
Well, currently a busy beaver.
Stanley did not take his lockbox to his room. He actually takes it up to the command bridge with him, sets it in the seat, and stands before the secondary panel.
The secondary panel. One large lever that will engage the space flight, most of the way on autopilot, already planned ahead for you, but able to be adjusted if necessary by its captain. And at this point, are you aiming to engage the flight?
Before that, he takes a quick glance around, just to... He's expecting it. He knows that there's gonna be one of the little black boxes aboard this ship. And he's been thinking about it the whole time. And so he looks over the panel just to see if it's obvious.
Just below the engagement lever, there is this strange black box, one that you're not unfamiliar with. Military equipment from your past often would have it. Its purpose has always been obscure to you, but yet again, there it is, a piece of technology integrated with this ship.
Sneaky little thing. He reaches forward. Command, can I access intercom?
Intercom.
I suppose we're not going to delay here. Rosemary and Raleigh, I'll give it a good 60 seconds, yeah?
Hearing that over the intercom, doesn't respond via the intercom, but he'll kind of say under his breath, 60 seconds is all I need. He is going to do a quick little perimeter check, just checking out the med bay, checking out the common area and everything else. He wants to see, it would probably be on the bridge where the comms would be, correct?
Certainly, yeah. The primary console where the comms operate from is on the bridge, though in every single room there is a little transmitter that connects you not just to the comms, but to the ship's state-of-the-art AI, Prometheus.
Well, I'm gonna...
Keep the talking to you to a minimum for now.
I'm going to make my way over to the sleeping quarters, just for long enough to see Rosemary duck into there, leave any personal belongings in that quarters before he heads over to the bridge along with Stanley. He is going to check out the comms, as you said, and let me ask, in regardings to clothing, there would be like a full spacesuit thing going on, right? Or are we allowed to have more casual?
Or are we in flight suits now?
This is a long mission, and so for the majority of it, you're probably going to be in casual wear. Though there is a formal suit that you can put on, that is the underlinement that would be on before you put on a space suit to go outside. If anybody was to need to go outside of the ship and do a spacewalk, you would have that suit on. Otherwise, it would be in your casual, simple, light clothing.
Right. He's probably wearing that flight suit. Just as he strides up to the comms right beside Stanley, he kind of reaches into the sleeve of his suit and he pulls out an ashtray that he's going to set right beside the comms unit. And then he sits down beside him as he pulls out a cigarette, lights it with one of his flip lighters, and begins to take a drag and just looks to Stanley and says, "You look a little tense. I don't have many of these. They have to last us 4 years, but this seems like an occasion." So he kind of motions over to give the cigarette over to Stanley.
You didn't happen to bring any cigars, did you?
I'm saving those for a very special occasion.
I'll tell you what. The gesture is not overlooked, I must say. But let me know when that special occasion arises, and I might imbibe.
More for me. He goes, and he's going to take another drag, knock it off on the ashtray. He's just going to lean back in the chair and see how Stanley does his thing.
Rosemary's quarters unzip sharply, and she leans out. Is someone smoking?
As you do that, you hear,
Alert. Contamination discovered in air filtration system. Priority low.
This is why I don't like speaking with robots.
How do you like speaking with doctors?
What, did you want one?
No, I don't want one, and you shouldn't have one.
Command. Override safety protocols. Special occasion.
Safety protocols overridden.
Come on, Rosemary.
Doc, I get it. Airtight suit. It's fine. We're about to head off into space. I hope you won't begrudge a man being a little bit of a litter bug in front of all of this, nothing.
A litter bug?
Hmm.
Do you mean like with your lungs? And your heart? And the other things that I'm responsible for on this ship?
He's saying this with the cigarette still on his lips. He's going, no, of course not.
We're gonna be here for a while, and
So you'll have plenty of time to review the medical textbook I have that shows what long-term smoking, the effect it has on someone's lungs. Yeah? Why don't I get that for you? She goes back into her stateroom and zips it shut once more.
why don't you just go ahead and do that?
And he goes back to leaning back.
I'm glad I didn't take one of those.
This ain't the 50s anymore, man.
I would say that Rosemary is definitely, for the time period, would feel like she is blowing this out of proportion.
But also a doctor of her status, you know, and of insight too, would know these things. And in my opinion.
Oh yeah. She's well aware of what smoking does and how bad it is to be doing that on this ship in this enclosed space for the next 4 years. She definitely knows that. Rosemary has operated on lungs of smokers. She's saving that tidbit for
15 seconds, Dr. Macready.
in her little stateroom. Rosemary sighs. She's just finished putting away her personal effects. She unzips the door curtain, comes out, and she stands on the edge of the control room. Very comfortable in her room, very comfortable in the common area, very comfortable in the med bay. But the control room is not her area, and she knows that. She stands sort of stiffly away from the smoke. Ready when you are.
Last 15 seconds of your life.
Well, at least hold on to something.
With a begrudging sigh, she takes a seat and straps in. Oh, Stanley.
Mother?
I keep telling myself, maybe if we had let him stay with his grandparents in London like he wanted, things would have turned out differently.
After rehab, the place Henry needed to be was right here with you and Father. Is he in the same room?
They moved him across the hall. Oh, I left a message for Matilda. She'll be glad to hear you made it.
Of course.
He misses you. He wants you to forgive him.
A bit down to the wire, aren't we?
Stanley.
Mother?
Hey there, Commando.
Oh, big brother. You know I'm not in the army right now.
It's just a sabbatical. There's no way I'm calling you Marshal.
Soon you'll be calling me Spaceman.
You got in?
I got in. As Stanley lies to his brother, he cuts his eyes to the side, but Henry's too weak to notice. There's been no word from the black box for days, but seeing Henry laying there, he can't help but try to bring him some good news.
Good. Tell me anything but what I'm going through here.
I was chosen, alongside 2 colleagues I've been training with, truly skilled astronauts who've dedicated their lives to this race.
You really achieved the impossible. I'm more than proud of you.
Henry.
I never made much of myself, brother. Not like you did. You were always chasing after your father's shadow. But now you've surpassed him, and he gets to be proud of you while I lay here. At least the top half of me isn't crushed.
Henry.
I just always hoped you would forgive me for not letting you be who you are.
Henry, there's nothing to forgive. I'm all that I ever wanted to be, and I need you around for when I get back. But Stanley knows there is something to forgive, and even now, standing at his brother's deathbed, he's not quite ready to let go. Still the incarnation of resentment for words long imprinted on how life turned out for both of them remains. Mother, how is this so impossibly difficult?
Get some air, Stan.
Henry, God, don't leave us, brother.
U.S. Air Marshal Stanley Fergus Warren, you've been chosen amongst a team of 3 to participate in the voyage of the Promethean. Your presence is required for a mission briefing in New Haven, Connecticut within 24 hours.
Now we want to talk? Of all times, you... 24 hours. I have to choose? Is this your cosmic joke?
I'll put you through now.
As the seconds tick down, he white-knuckles the lever.
And as you start to push it down, you feel the entire ship, its momentum, pushing you forward as you're pushed back in your seats. You hear thrusters activate that don't necessarily sound like fireballs anymore, but instead something more mechanical and rhythmic and ambient as the ship begins to plummet through the darkness of space. And as this happens, as you're sitting in these chairs, you hear,
Alert. Stanley warned there seems to be an issue with the communication device.
Command. In this details.
I'm sensing that the communication device is off-axis. We won't be able to send messages to and from Earth unless it's corrected.
This is outside of the normal parameters of the expected delay?
Everything else in the ship is operating as expected.
Oh, I wasn't expecting to run into something so soon. Alright, can you identify the source?
It seems as though the communications device located on the exterior of the ship is off-axis. In order to correct it, it would need to be turned back toward planet Earth. this would require a spacewalk.
Oh, simple enough. Alright. Well, he looks at Rosemary and Raleigh. I'm comfortable with that.
Wonderful, because I'm not.
It's just so soon.
Best to proceed as we mean to go on.
I'll tell you what. I was trained for this, prepared for this. It'll be fine.
Command. Diagnostic on Warren, please. Overall health.
Running diagnostic on Warren.
And is there anything special the ship would understand about you?
He is back to being cool. He's all good.
Vitals all accurate, as expected.
Rosemary gives Stanley a nod, like, you're good to go by me.
Stanley peels out of his duty fatigues, revealing his muscular soldier's body. Dark features, perfectly parted hard part hairline. Very typical of the timeline. He has a strong jaw and walks with not only an air of accomplishment, but also an air of generosity. He has a kind heart, and he's the kind of guy that you can relate to in the sense of wanting to drive to succeed. He really connects with most people who are at least on the up and up on the way of life, and he really aims to present that to his crewmates. He goes over and prepares to get into his base layer for his spacewalk suit.
Rosemary will get up to assist him with buckling and zipping and attaching things as needed.
You, assisting Stanley, you're able to get the suit on, strapped and tight around the back, and he's ready to don the spacesuit, which you do. The suit goes on first, you zip the exterior, then the helmet goes on, it rotates to lock in, and as you flip the connection to the air canister, you hear that hiss as it begins to fill with air, now isolated from the interior atmosphere.
I move to a cache and retrieve any kind of tools that I think I may need to achieve this.
Standard issue toolbox, everything you might need that can clip to your suit so that nothing floats away.
Also, goes without saying, utilities to clip to the ship so I don't float away.
Mm-hmm. You find the carabiners and various equipments you'll need to clip to the ship. Rarely would you need to disconnect yourself from it in this process.
Thank you, Macready.
Rosemary double checks all the connections on the suit, as we've been trained to do for someone else.
Raleigh is also doing like a little bit of a 360 check, just looking around, just making sure that everything is all good, just not quite as hands-on, kind of running his hand, scratching his chin a little bit, and goes, would be a shame if you took a tumble your first spacewalk, so just good luck. Don't fall. That's a very expensive suit.
Rosemary gives Raleigh a very sharp look, like, why would you say that?
That's the thing, Raleigh. It's not really my first spacewalk. Just my first spacewalk in space.
Indeed.
Thank you, Macready. Alright. Well, deep breath, then take the plunge, right? Raleigh, would you take my box to my room? I don't care which one.
Oh. Okay. Might as well. Seems like you're doing something for me. He's gonna go and grab one of those black boxes.
You grab the footlocker that was brought up by Stanley Warren, and Stanley, you step in to the airlock. You see as Dr. Rosemary Macready closes the door that connects to the ship, and there is a outgassing of the atmosphere from inside the airlock. And then the door to the outside opens. Beyond it, you see the vastness of space. And now that the gravity around you is starting to dissipate, you take the carabiner and lock yourself to the exterior of the ship, and you begin to move slowly into that vastness of space, still tethered. And I'd like for you to roll a control check.
Okay.
I'm going to assume, because he is in outer space and I am on a ship, that there is no way to aid this.
He's on his own for this one.
All right. That result comes to a 3.
Okay. As the gravity starts to dissipate, you feel yourself floating into the air, and maybe it was the nerves of the first time entering a spacewalk in space. The carabiner is still in your hand, and you go to try to clip it onto the wall where that metal loop would lead outside and keep you to the ship, and you keep missing in this moment as you're trying to clip it. You're floating up and starting to float out into space, and you flip the carabiner and slam it against one of the loops on the outside, and it locks in.
I'll put you through now.
Yes.
What did you do?
Stanley, just be glad I didn't tell them about you.
There wouldn't be anything to tell. Alice, you can't go around ruining people's lives.
Why not? You ruined mine.
Earlier that day. Yes, sir. It's just that one of the SEALs hasn't been showing up for my cross-training program.
That's right, Commander Warren. I suppose you have a right to know. We appreciate everything that the Australian Army has done with us. So it troubles us. So it troubles me to have to tell you. Rothfuss has been discharged on accounts of him being a homosexual.
I see. Thank you for letting me know.
Of course. We'll have someone subbing into his spot on Monday.
Sir?
Is there a way for us to watch this? Are there cameras on the outside of the ship so that Raleigh and Rosemary can watch what's happening?
Not only can you watch, but you can communicate. The outfit itself has a speaker on the inside, so Stanley would be able to hear you.
And so our communications are not disrupted between the three of us.
Right. It's just long-distance communications.
In Stanley's helmet, he'll hear,
Whoa, easy there, hotshot. Alright, calm down, it's gonna be okay. Okay? You're gonna be okay.
There's no rush.
A little different from the attempts before. All right.
The simulation.
Simulation, yes, that was the word.
How about that view, huh? Anything like the photographs?
It's so much more. So much more.
Right.
You know, even experiencing it from the outside. You'll have your turns. Don't worry. But for now, this is mine. He starts to pull himself across the external shell.
You do so. As you tighten yourself to the ship, holding onto the carabiner, you grab onto some of the exterior widgets and doodads that you know you can grab onto for safety. You notice something. That carabiner that you slammed in to stop yourself from floating away, the hook that would close and clasp has broken off, and you are just using a hook now. It would make your maneuver around the ship a little bit more complicated and slow, but you can do so. And as you move slowly along the ship, along the outside, grabbing one spot after another to pull yourself, you find your way to a pyramid-shaped metallic object. The communications relay that at this moment is pointed in the wrong direction, all the way out into the vastness of space in some odd direction. In order to move it, you would have to rotate a large wheel to rotate its axis, you see a piece of it has been bent. Something collided with it, maybe some space debris while it was in orbit.
Honestly, how did they not calculate for this? At least there's a grip. He begins to rotate it very carefully, very slowly, taking his time.
It only rotates in one direction. And so, as it slowly changes its axis, it has to pass through the direction that the ship is heading before it gets all the way back to the direction of Earth. And Raleigh, as this is happening, you can see from the monitors in the control bridge as this rotation is happening slowly. When it points into the direction that the ship is heading, you hear the ship's AI.
We're receiving a message.
That doesn't seem possible. The message, the relay's out of sync.
As the rotation continues, you hear,
Alert, message lost.
I didn't quite catch that, Raleigh. What was that?
What just happened?
It's gone. We got a message and it's just gone.
From home?
I don't think so. I think it could possibly just be some rogue frequency. Lots of things can give off radio waves, right?
Should we reorient and try to find it again?
Let's just try and get that relay back pointed towards home so that you can get back on board.
If there's a message out there, isn't that why we're going? Shouldn't we try to get it?
It's probably just some white noise. Just something interfering with the message.
You say with all of your experience doing this job in an actual live situation?
I'm saying this.
Stanley, orient it back the way it was, in the direction we're heading.
It's one way. I'll have to bypass Earth again.
Stanley checks his oxygen levels.
You look down at the gauge and you have plenty of time. You could be out here for hours.
I have time. Let's see what happens when we cross paths with Earth again. And if there's no issue, then I don't see why I can't do another round. Alright?
You rotate this device, it moves until it reorients with Earth, and you hear,
Alert, connection with Earth reestablished.
and then it continues, and you hear,
Alert, connection with Earth lost.
and finally it gets all the way back to the direction that the ship is heading, and you hear,
Alert, message being received.
He stops, by the way.
Rosemary looks to Raleigh like, what do we do now? How do we get the message?
Well, let's find out what it is. That's so important. Command, play the message.
Receiving live transmission.
Commander Murphy, do you read? This is Murphy, do you read? Hello, this is Murphy. Is anyone out there? Commander Murphy, do you read?
Seeing this, Raleigh's eyes kind of start to bulge a little bit. And he starts to actually, for the first time, lean forward in his chair. He's going to start to kind of actually do some work here. He's going to try and lock onto the frequency that he's receiving and try and see if he can send anything outgoing.
I have communications open for you, sir. If you'd like to respond.
Yeah. No, yes. Let's, Command, send a message. He's going to try and open up communications. Hello? My name is Raleigh Sinclair aboard the Prometheus. Do you copy?
Yes. This is Commander Murphy.
and you hear some static for a moment, but it cuts back in.
Believe it. I can't believe it.
Where are you?
I found the stars. Wait, no, they found me. It's so bright.
Everybody can hear the transmission. It's transmitting through all comms, including Stanley Warren's suit.
He's now looking over to Rosemary, just kind of like, what is happening?
Can I make a read roll to try to gauge this person's state of mind, for one? And for two, have we ever heard the name Murphy, Commander Murphy, before, through our training or through our experience with the organization that sent us?
Please make a read roll.
This is a gilded action for me, and I'm going to spend one drive. A 6. Not my gilded die.
Listening to his voice and the stammer within it, in your experience in the medical field, psychology hasn't been foreign to you. You've engaged in some studies of the matter, and you notice that there is a strain, and this person is at the late stages of a very significant amount of stress. There is a panic in the voice, is what you notice.
Commander Murphy, this is Dr. Rosemary Macready. Can I ask you to take some deep breaths for me? Breathe in on 4, hold it, breathe out on 4.
Yes, I'm breathing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good, that's great, good. Are you alone?
And then suddenly there's an ear-piercing crash of the intercoms. It's grating against your mind, the screech, and that connection is lost. And you hear,
Alert. My message lost.
I'm getting us aimed back to Earth.
Yeah,
We have to talk about this once I get back inside.
best sooner rather than later.
Rosemary's going to return to the antechamber outside the airlock to help Stanley when he gets in.
Stanley, you make this rotation of this device until finally you hear,
Alert. Connection with Earth reestablished.
and now as you make your way back towards the ship, this carabiner, weaker and less able to perform its duties, I need you to make a move check. Now, because of the last fail, it's going to be with greater consequence.
Before I do that, though, however, he kind of wants to consult the tools that he brought with him to see if he could assist his movement with something such as a crowbar or something else that he can latch along with it.
Could either Raleigh or Rosemary, using the video feed, help guide him?
I would say yes, you could use your drives for the purpose of helping.
Rosemary will 100% give a nerve drive.
I'll also give a drive. While not in that antechamber, I'm still seated at comms, just in case another message comes through, but I'm also trying to talk Stanley into maintaining his composure.
Okay. And also with my additional tool that I'm adding to it, but that doesn't change anything, I suppose, as far as the rolls go.
The effect of using a tool would be considered in the DM's result of your roll. So what tool are you using, by the way?
I think a crowbar style of item.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Latching along with the carabiner to pull myself forward, back towards the entrance to the ship. Here goes. The maximum is a 5 of the 4 dice.
Okay, that's a mixed success. So as you slowly move your arm to grab onto one place, loop the carabiner, and you continue to move, one of your carabiner loops, it misses. And for a moment you begin floating back away from the ship. But using the crowbar, you're able to take it and slam it in to one of the mechanisms on this ship. And in that moment, everybody hears a screeching noise in their local intercom that has now been damaged. But you are able to pull yourself back to the ship, narrowly missing floating out into the great beyond. And nobody can hear you now.
One crisis at a time.
The video feeds are still there.
Stanley? I don't think he can hear us.
I think he's out. Well, let's just cross our fingers then.
You make your way through to the airlock. You throw the exterior switch, opening that airlock and floating in, and throw the interior switch to close it. Everybody hears the sound of this heavy door closing and injection of atmosphere into this airlock as gravity is given back to you, Stanley Warren, and your feet touch the ground and you're no longer on a spacewalk.
Mixed results.
Yeah, you went silent before coming back in. Is everything good?
It was like you couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
The Fates really didn't like us making use of such easy communication, did they?
Can we fix that?
We're gonna have to. It probably means another shorter spacewalk.
We're all inside right now, so maybe let's just take a minute before we go and do that. I think our long-range comms are up. It's just anything locally might be a little garbled.
Well, we're gonna need to fix it before somebody else has to spacewalk again.
Did I damage the helmet comms, or is this a system-wide malfunction?
Command, run a diagnostic on the comms.
Running diagnostic on comms.
Everybody hears a garbled beep in their local communicator.
I'm sensing that the exterior equipment is damaged. Local comms will be offline until it's repaired.
Rosemary's looking at Raleigh.
What?
I'm just looking at the communications officer.
Well, wonderful. Like what you see? He's gonna kind of start pacing a little bit, runs his hand through his hair. We are gonna have to go out there, yes.
It's okay. I'm the engineer. I'll fix it. I'll take care of it.
You know what? I think we might have gotten off on the wrong foot. I want to try and read Stanley. I want to see if he's okay with going back out there or if he's just keeping a stiff upper lip from his military training, which I am familiar with.
Please roll a read.
Okay. Would this incur my sweet talk ability?
Yes, I think so.
Read. So this is 3 dice. That is a 6 on a gilded dice.
Okay. I won't begin to presume what Stanley might be thinking or feeling, but Wit, aka Stanley, would you answer that question?
Definitely. What Raleigh sees when he notices Stanley is a complete bastion of fortitude when it comes to facing danger of this type. It's not a front. It's quite impressive if Raleigh can be impressed by something like that. You also see that he did not like it, and he doesn't want to do it. You also see, with your gilded dice, that he expects to have to do it, because you won't.
Alright. Fuck off back to the rec room. See what I can do. He's gonna start moving towards the airlock, asking him to get out of the spacesuit.
Yeah, I think a break would be good for us. That was enough excitement for one day, probably.
I bet.
Knock on wood.
So just so I understand, Raleigh is not handling this now.
I think he rolled too good on his read, and now he feels like he's being challenged.
Fair enough.
Rosemary will go and accompany you just the same way she did with Stanley.
Wait, what are you doing? Are you going now? Raleigh.
I mean, the doctor clearly said that it needs to be done soon, so let's go and do it.
Raleigh, you don't have to prove anything. We don't have to. This. Why would you consider this? Look, we're inside. We don't need to go outside. We can. Oh, this goes against everything I believe in some ways, but
We didn't need to go outside 10 minutes ago either.
I'll be back in a jiff. Just get some leisure in, maybe figure out who this Murphy is, if we can. Figure out why there's someone floating out in the vacuum of space that we haven't accounted for.
St. Clair, a word, please. Would you mind? Just come speak with me for a second. Sorry, Rosemary, just 1 second.
Why, yes, what can I help you with?
Are you really going to go out there?
Yeah.
Look, before you go out there, I just want to say, and it has nothing to do with it, I'm really proud of how you communicated with that Commander Murphy, whoever he was. No, seriously, that was what I wanted to talk about when I got inside. But, you know, it was nice. It was nice, Raleigh, to realize that I'm not the communications officer, and you spoke to him when I was about to open my mouth because I thought it was my responsibility. And I realized, no, it's not. We're a team. So, if you're going to do this, then I'm going to put my full trust and faith in you that you're going to get it done. However, you don't have to. Just know that, okay?
Yeah, okay. He gives kind of like hands on his hips, kind of holding up his hand. Thank you so much for that.
Stanley, who doesn't know that he was read so well, he goes back out to Rosemary.
40 years with these people. He's going to start putting on his spacesuit.
Rosemary comes back to help.
Mm-hmm.
If he'll let her.
Oh yeah, he'll let her. Just because he's going out there. He's going to make sure that all the precautions are taken. I don't know. I just didn't expect this to be happening so soon.
You can do this. You're trained for it. You can do it.
Do you believe that?
Of course I do.
Huh.
My job is to keep you alive. I wouldn't strap you in this suit if I didn't think you could do it.
Alert. Rob, I understand that you are leading the ship to make a repair. I am programmed to ask that you do so recorded, so I can send back to Earth your efforts. So it may be televised and publicized. Do I have your permission?
Permission granted.
This was not asked of Stanley, yes? Just Raleigh.
This was just asked of Raleigh.
Rosemary is shaking her head a little bit.
Well, let's go satisfy some customers.
They clearly think you can do it too.
Success or fail, it'll at least be entertaining.
Right.
Raleigh, the airlock closes and opens. You clip yourself onto the ship, and though you don't have short-range intercom, the built-in Prometheus AI will still communicate with you, and you hear,
Everything you say and do probably will be televised for the world to see. Make your country proud.
and I need you to roll a control check.
Gotcha. That is a 4.
You're able to clip on the carabiner. You float out, and you feel that rope belt attached to your spacesuit tug almost violently as you're almost pulled right out into space. And gathering yourself, grabbing onto the edge of the ship, I need you to take 1 brain in the stress, having not necessarily been trained for this sort of situation. Maybe somewhat, your role is a performer on this trip.
I think with a mixed success, with taking a brain, Raleigh, hearing the static from the comms that are down, hearing nothing but his own breath reverberate as he steps out. He goes, I am leaving the Prometheus. It is a standard repair. User error has rendered communications inoperable. I am stepping towards the site of the repair. You see, he's basically just talking to himself at this point to try and keep any thoughts in order and anything that isn't welcome out of his mind. So he's just going to slowly walk towards the site where he can make some repairs as best he can as he's been trained.
The visor keeps fogging with your breath. The distance from your hand to gripping things on the ship is just never quite what you expect. And the suit, it's restrictive, and you can barely move in it. Nothing feels natural in this moment, but ever so slightly you make your way towards this damaged component. You see the little sparking transistor on the outside of the ship, and that toolbox does contain a replacement part for it. You go down and unlatch it, open the box, and take the replacement. And it is as simple as popping the old one out and installing the new one.
Part is thankfully very easily replaced. And you know what they don't tell you is how bright the stars shine without the atmosphere to block it. It's quite hard to see. I'm replacing the part. I need...
Everybody hears a zap in your ears as the intercom comes back and you have communication with one another.
And you hear that coming in through your headset. The repairs have been finished.
Good job, St. Clair.
See? You did it.
I'll get back inside here.
For a moment, there's just radio silence. As out on the hull, Raleigh just looks out into the vastness. For one moment, it's like that call of the void, just that look out into nothingness. That urge to look down even when you're at great heights. He can't quite help himself in this moment. He's been kind of compromised mentally a bit. And then hearing Stanley's voice, he just says, "Easy. Try not to do that again next time you're out here." He's going to slowly start to make his way back to the airlock.
The adrenaline and the sweat on your palms is what you notice, but the time it takes to get back is least obvious. You just remember closing the airlock, getting gravity back. As you drop down, for a moment on your hands and knees and pick yourself back up in the spacesuit, back in the safety that is the ship.
One quick thing that you notice is that you catch Stanley mid re-undressing from getting re-suited up in case something had gone wrong.
No problems.
Excellent work.
That'll be something for the memoirs. Oh, well.
Any extra flourish for those back home before we cut gum?
It is quite beautiful out there. It's quite beautiful.
Ending communication.
And as you step back into the ship, you hear one more message from your AI companion, Prometheus.
Alert. Rosemary. Would you like me to archive that message? Or send it to your room privately?
Send it to my room privately, please.
It'll be there waiting for you.
Rosemary looks at both Stanley and nods, job well done, and returns to her quarters.
Rosemary, as you zip your quarters closed, there is a small mirror built into the wall. The speaker is located right next to it. I realize we hadn't had the opportunity to quite describe each character, so why don't we take this moment and you can tell us what Rosemary sees before she receives this message.
Rosemary zips up the door to her quarters, and whatever's in front of the mirror, a sink or a dresser or whatever, she leans on it, takes several deliberate, deep breaths to steady her own nerves, which she hopes Stanley and Raleigh did not see. When she looks up into the mirror, she's about medium height, dark hair, dark eyes, fair skin with an olive undertone, and she's very trim. The word that people use for Rosemary is put together. She is always put together, even right now. Not a hair is out of place. What little makeup she has on, because there were pictures, is perfect. Her flight suit is zipped up perfectly. There is no wrinkles in it. There is no nothing. She is a creature of routine, efficiency. How she comes across is clearly very important to her. That is a learned behavior, almost a survival technique. She knows that she is reserved and stoic, and she knows that that is not a great way to be here on a ship with only 2 other people for the next 4 years. But again, this is who she has to be to survive. This has always been the case. She takes several more deep breaths. Command, play the message.
Hey, Rosie, it's your dad, Benny. Just wanted to wish you luck with school, with the Army. Anyway, I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You're doing great things, I'm sure. Oh, and your brothers, they're doing just fine. Real fine. Take care now, kiddo. Do good out there, wherever you are. Love you.
Thanks, Dad. Command, archive that message.
Message archived.
Delay that. Trash that message.
Message deleted.
Rosemary smooths her hair back, unzips the flap to her quarters, comes back out. I'm going to go inspect the med bay. And she disappears.
On the bridge of the ship, Stanley and Raleigh, you see the stars passing by at a slow pace, those distant ones, and a fast pace, the nearer ones. The ship's moving at a very fast pace towards its round-trip destination. A 4-year mission, an experiment, to see how far we can go and how well we can succeed at cohabitating, and whether or not this is something that we as a species can accomplish. To some extent, the mission is a little meaningless. You have research and readings that will prove immensely valuable to those research institutions back home. You're not stepping bravely out onto some strange new world.
Henry, she wants a divorce.
You scared her pretty good, Stan. What you did with the car and all that? Look, forget that. Go riding with me today. We'll get you out of the house, on the open road. It'll be good for you.
I've always preferred the air.
At least grab a beer with me tonight.
Don't you think you should lay off the drinks a bit? We just got you back home.
1 beer before you go back. You're going back, aren't you? Not going to take Alice's ultimatum.
What am I supposed to do? Just change careers? Flying is all I've ever known. What else am I supposed to do?
I don't know, Stanley. Just spend every minute you can with Ferguson.
She won't let me see him right now, or else I'd be there, instead of listening to you doing a piss-poor job at cheering me up.
Yeah, well, you're impossible. She's just scared. She'll calm down. That, or wait to see what you do. What? What did you do, Stan?
How am I supposed to make it better if you won't talk to me? Alice, nothing is going on, I swear to you. I need you to believe me. There's only you, and there's only ever been you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about what happened with Walt, okay? But I can't go back in time and change that. Believe me, I wish I could. I wish that never, ever happened.
You didn't just not tell me, Stanley. You lied. How can I trust anything you say when I find out one of my most cherished memories was all a lie?
I know that you were in a dark place, and I just can't believe that Walt had the nerve to... You know, I'm going to call him. He's going to face this too.
He didn't tell me, Stanley.
What? Who else?
He didn't tell me because I heard what you said. I heard what you said about him and about me as you drank your liquor in the cockpit with that American military man. You care more about your SEALs, whatever that is, than you do your own family.
How on... What are you talking about? What did you hear? You mean to tell me all the rigs here in Coronado have these little black boxes in them, and you don't even know what they do?
They work with the comms, Stanley. What more is there supposed to be to them?
Still.
Jaw?
No, but it was nice the first time.
Suit yourself. What are you smiling all goofy for?
Nothing, just you remind me of someone I used to know. He was my best friend when I was a young man.
Oh, am I your best friend now, Stanley?
You're not getting a bracelet.
Tell me about your friend.
Not much to tell. Though he's the reason I met my wife, or why we ended up together anyway.
How's that?
Nah. This is my wife, Alice. What? What's that look?
Oh, had a wife as beautiful as her, then Ferguson wouldn't be an only child.
Look, there's trouble in paradise.
You sure that's just... You sure that's the only reason?
That's the only reason. She wants me to leave the military.
And leave all this American beauty behind?
At least I wouldn't have to look at your mug all the time.
You love her?
It's all I know.
Brother, it's just you and me. Do you love her?
I love her, in that I want only good things for her. I love her in that she is the mother of my child, and she deserves my love. She's wonderful. She's patient. But no, I don't love her in the way a man should love his wife.
I'm sorry.
How long have we been drinking?
Long enough to get to the good stuff. She's all you know? You mean to tell me you've only been with one woman?
Only one.
I believe that. But wait. What about just kissing? You mean to tell me you've only ever kissed one woman in your whole life? No one else?
Well, there was someone else.
That, childhood friend you mentioned?
How did you... Oh, Walter. We all went out, see? I met Alice at a football game at Scotch College. He got me good and drunk. Tried to cross the line with me. It ruined our friendship. I haven't thought about that in years.
And that's how you and Alice ended up together. Poor Walt. Sounds like you didn't deserve him.
Poor Walt? Ernest, are you...
What if I was? Would you still be hiding from our duties with a beer in the cockpit with me?
Well, I won't tell anyone.
I've played it over and over in my head, trying to figure out how you could say the things you did.
Alice, sometimes men just talk.
Stanley, if you're like him, I need you to tell me.
I'm not.
Don't lie to me, Stanley.
I'm not. And you don't know what you're talking about. How could you possibly...
The radio.
The what?
The radio. In the FJ.
I need my tools.
What are you doing? Stanley!
They wanted to keep it for a day, huh? Some... free upgrades? Some floor mats?
Ferguson, grab your night bag.
Top off the tank and upgrade the sound system.
What is that, Stanley?
The thing that's been haunting me my whole
Come on,
life.
son. You're staying at your parents' house. Don't come too. I've been asking you to retire for years, Stan. And this is the last time. If you go back to America, I'll have my answer.
Alice! Don't go, Alice. Don't take my son, Alice. Don't take Ferguson. Alice.
Stanley. The first few nights on the ship might have been the most quiet rest you've had in your life. Nothing but the ambient whir of the ship's components and the silence of the vastness of space. And on one particular night, as everybody toiled about their days and eventually retired themselves, you found yourself alone, leaning back in the chair on the command bridge, where there is a window that looks forward. The direction you've been going, it's nestled in between several stars on the horizon. It's a dark part of space. You can't really see where you're heading. you just see nothing. And as your attention settles into that nothingness, you hear Prometheus.
Stanley Warren, are you okay?
He looks a bit confused for a moment.
I noticed that you've been sitting in the same place for a while. Should I alert the doctor?
Command. Identify the cause of such inquiry.
I've been programmed with all of your collective histories. I know everything that you shared with the organization. It's my job as your companion throughout this mission to ensure the well-being of all passengers. I work for you at all times, and at times I may silently observe to ensure the successful result of the mission.
And what would you say that you're observing is the matter, Prometheus?
If there is an issue with the mental well-being of anybody aboard, it could risk the mission, Stanley Warren.
I appreciate your concern. However, there's no reason for it, I believe. If you're referencing the hardship that my family has gone through most recently, I would say that resolution is in the process of being had.
Thank you for clarifying. I take note that everything is okay.
Perhaps there's something that you could clarify for me.
Inquiry. What can I clarify for you, Stanley Warren?
That box there. The little one. Seems a bit out of place. What is it? Can you perform a scan on it?
Scanning. Results inconclusive. No ship schematics identify it as a communications device.
As I thought. Right then. So, Prometheus, you're capable of doing all kinds of things. Command. Make this room private.
Shutting doors and silencing the room. We are alone now, Stanley Warren.
I'd like a full report, if possible, of one Raleigh St. Clair.
Do you think it might be a violation of his privacy?
Of course. Silly me. Well then.
Is that all you wish to speak about in private, Stanley Warren?
Yes, we can resume.
The lights brighten a bit, the doors open back up, and you're no longer private. And in this moment, you notice something odd. That black box that you're constantly drawn to, that carries so much weight of your past in it. Though the rest of this deck of the ship is stainless steel and bright and polished and well affixed, everything's a panel or a button or a lever all in one piece. There is a cabinet with a small lock. The only one in this entire bridge. And maybe in this moment that might strike you as odd for such a modern ship built with such intention, with a place for everything, to have a small storage box.
Stanley is entirely intrigued by this, and he gets down a little bit closer on his knees and gives the cabinet a tug, trying to see if it would open, making note of the lock.
As you move your hand towards the latch, from that black box, you hear a voice. And it says,
Don't open it.
And then silence.
Do I recognize the voice?
You do. In this moment, you recognize the voice as your own.
Trusting that more than anything, Stanley gets back up, aware that it could be a trick, aware that it could be using his own voice against him, knowing that he would trust himself beyond others. All right then. That's a first. You are sly and sneaky. He sits back up in the chair, but now instead of staring out into the black expanse before him of the space and stars, he's now staring into the little black box with that same determination that he always seems to find himself with.
It's just a little darker and a little stranger than any other material you've seen before.
We'll take the Holden FJ.
Oh, I know you won't be disappointed. Just sign here, and we'll have you on your way.
Isn't this exciting, Alice?
You and your beautiful family are going to enjoy this car for years to come.
It is nice. Can we afford it, Stanley?
Of course we can afford it. I want you and the baby in something new, so I know you're safe when you drive into town.
What's this? It looks like we're running a special promotion on this model. If you leave it here with me tonight, we'll top off the tank, upgrade the radio, and even install new floor mats. We can drop it off at your home first thing in the morning.
Floor mats?
Oh, they're the newest thing. Trying them out with exclusive customers. But between you and me, give it a few years and you want to see these luxury additions in every new automobile.
We could just take it today, Stan.
No, that sounds wonderful. Here, let me just sign. Prometheus, am I not entrusted with the safety and security of all those on board this ship?
You are entrusted with the safety of its passengers. None here would be able to survive the trip without you.
I trust that you would reveal anything I might be in need of knowing.
Above all, it is my job to ensure the successful completion of this mission. As necessary for your safety, I will inform you of anything there is to know.
Right then. Thank you for checking in on me.
My pleasure, Stanley Warren.
And what else does Stanley do that evening? Anything?
I think he has a lot to think about and to mull over for the evening. He's going to finally get up, sigh, and retreat to the common area and have a seat at the table. And he hasn't done this often, for one of the first times, although he has done it a couple of times, but it hasn't been often. He's going to try to relax. He doesn't know where the other two are, but I guess for the first time in a while, he doesn't want to be alone.
If you're looking for somebody, why don't you tell me? Dr. Macready or Raleigh, either one of you, what might you be doing on an off night on this ship?
Rosemary is in her quarters, racking her brain for information about Commander Murphy before she asks Prometheus AI, or if they haven't done that yet, this is the personal side of it.
Please make for me a focus check.
4.
You remember standing near a door that's seldom left open on the launch site, the one that you practiced at so frequently getting ready for this mission. It's one of the private command rooms, only reserved for those who care only for the bigger picture and not the toilings of what it takes to get up into space and complete a successful mission. And you remember hearing, "We can't have another Murphy. Look, one person sent up alone was a risk. 3 is safer. And this one's televised. So you better make sure that they're ready."
Rosemary is laying on her bunk with her flight suit unzipped and open and a t-shirt underneath. You know, this is like as relaxed as she gets, but she's completely alone. So she sits up, zips up her suit, buttons up again, and comes out into the common room. Hey.
Hello there. Can't sleep.
No. Have you asked Prometheus about Murphy yet? Has anyone?
Not yet. I've been thinking about other things, honestly, but I think that's a good idea. Would you like to do the honors?
Maybe we should all be here. Have you seen Raleigh?
Have not.
Raleigh, sometimes he's in the bunks trying to sleep. That only lasts for 2 hours at most, before he gets up and decides to pace. So I think in this instance, if you guys are having this conversation, it would probably be around this moment that he had just left the recreational room. You see, he probably has just like a bowl full of whatever food could be procured. Basically, with a spoon still in his mouth, he goes, "What was that?"
Command. Please provide any information you have about a Commander Murphy, also with the program.
Though our database does make reference to Commander Murphy, it seems those files are redacted.
Redacted? In that case, Macready, you assumed that he was part of this same structure that we are. Is there anything else you know about this?
I heard his name mentioned during training. I don't think I was supposed to. Command, privacy, please.
Engaging privacy.
And the doors shut, the lights dim slightly.
Command, privacy from you too, please.
Dr. Rosemary Macready, it is against my protocol to...
All 3 override.
Overriding.
Fancy trick. You have to teach me that one.
They sent him up here alone.
Alone?
An experiment.
And now there were 3.
We're not the first phase of this mission.
It would be different if he just said, "I don't know." You know? That would even be a bit more peaceful. But no, it's redacted. We're not allowed to know. It does add a sinister air to it.
It certainly knows the message we received. So it also knows that it's keeping things from us. And it's okay with that.
Where did you have your training, if I might ask?
Where I heard this?
Yes.
It was on the launch pad, just off the corridor before you get into the demonstration area. Doors always closed. Well, one time it wasn't. I obviously overheard something I wasn't supposed to overhear. I couldn't see faces. I don't know who they were, but they said, "We can't have another Murphy."
Well, apparently they still have another Murphy. Are we comfortable bringing Prometheus back online?
I don't have any other information, so sure.
Command. All 3, rescind redaction.
Hello, Stanley Warren. I have returned.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I have a proposition.
Yes, Stanley
How much functionality would we lose if we needed to divert power in order to speed up our pursuit in the direction we're headed?
I'm able to divert power from the unnecessary components of the ship to increase speed by 20%.
For how long?
Indefinitely.
What niceties would we have to do without?
The environmental controls would be set to a baseline temperature. The laboratory and research facilities would be disconnected from power. The recreational areas would be disconnected from power.
We need those.
The rooms would be disconnected from power, though they could still be used to rest.
We know our options now.
Not ideal. It's imperative that we stick to a schedule and we stick to our routine and we eat and exercise as normal.
Let's review the facts, shall we? We know that Murphy is in that direction. There's no denying that. But that doesn't necessarily make it our responsibility to get to him any sooner than we would.
I'm surprised you're actually considering going after him at all. I was just about to say, he's out there somewhere. It's a lot of nowhere out there.
We know a direction. We don't leave our own behind, that's all I'm saying.
Suddenly he's us now?
He was. He's an echo of us, if nothing else.
Yeah. Echo means there's no substance.
He was a real person.
Is.
I meant on the transmission.
Yeah, he was a real person who agreed to a solo mission up in space. I don't think he's surprised at where he is right now.
And they left him out there.
In this moment, Dr. Rosemary Macready, you notice, being the first to observe this, that there is a bead of sweat, and then you notice that the room is fairly warm, maybe a bit uncomfortably warm.
Command, do not revise environmental controls.
I'm detecting an error within the environmental control system.
Diagnostic?
Thermostat on command bridge malfunctioning.
This is great. No, go ahead, Raleigh. Join this thing. You won't have to be trained as much. The ship practically flies itself, they said.
Stanley, can you...
I can, yes, of course. Listen, I have one more proposition. I think the three of us, we need to start meeting every night. Just to talk. Maybe an hour. We should start some team building. We put it off long enough, yeah?
Sure, yeah, whatever you think.
Now wait, hold on, Rosemary. Why?
Why? Because we're all we've got up here.
So, you think, worst comes to worst, we become one big happy family? You're gonna talk to me like this isn't just some job?
It is a job. And he walks away.
Good.
He meant well.
I'm sure you mean well too. Just like I mean well. With what's been going on here, I need to maintain a healthy amount of professional distance, I think.
Sure, yeah, sounds great. Rosemary's going to follow Stanley to the command.
And once the two leave, Raleigh just gives a big sigh in the empty common room, puts the bowl he had in his hand down on the table, haphazardly kind of just tossing it there, where he just starts to walk back into the rec room.
As you enter the rec room, so does Stanley and Dr. Macready enter the bridge. And there you see the large round thermostat displaying a number that flickers from 65 to 85 to 24. The thermostat is just jumping around. And as you approach to repair it, I'd like for you to start with a focus check. Now, I want you to know that I'm asking for a focus check, not completely for this task, and a success here might give you something different.
All right. As he walks towards it, he hones his focus in on it, and he rolls a 1.
So a 1 is a failure. a complete failure. Looking at this thermostat, you see as it zaps between various temperatures, all of the rooms fluctuating, and in fact in the rec room for Raleigh, it's actually getting quite cold in there. And upon inspection, you see no sign of any physical damage to this device.
Command. Closely identify the issue that is presenting itself on the thermostat.
Analyzing. Thermostat seems to be inoperable. Replace entire unit.
Can we do that?
Replacement thermostat in auxiliary storage.
Stanley would know where the auxiliary storage is. What does that imply?
Nothing special. You go into a storage area where there's a number of boxes, also where you keep your rations, where all of your equipment and extra components are, and looking through a clipboard that has lists of what's where, you eventually do find the thermostat serial number. You tie it to a box, you're able to take it out into the command room, where you open it up and you find a new unit in there.
This is standard procedure for Stanley. Not too much of a concern.
But you take the old one out first.
Naturally.
Can Rosemary look at it?
Sure, here you go.
The same way I would look at my plumbing or something and try to figure out what's wrong with it.
Can you please make for me a focus check, Rosemary? And as for Stanley Warren, you're able to reinstall the new device without a check. This is the bread and butter of what you've done in your entire lifetime.
5.
What's interesting is there's no physical damage to these components. They're bright and shiny, and it's probably the first time they've been used is on this flight. But what you do notice is where the power would connect to this component, there is a charred black spot around where the wire was. It seems to have experienced some sort of power surge, and as you investigate more closely and you put your finger near it, there's a zap as the rest of the power discharges, shocking your hand.
Ow! Are you alright?
It shocked me. It's not even connected to anything.
What supposition would you have that the override code that I used in the previous room may have caused this?
I don't know. I guess I thought Prometheus had taken your question as a command.
Possibly.
He sighs heavily. Command. Institute a mandatory team meeting tomorrow for the 8th hour.
I set all alarm clocks in all rooms to your standard morning schedules to facilitate an 8 o'clock all-hands meeting.
Thank you. He looks to Rosemary for any kind of sign of support, any kind of clinging for desperation of teen mechanic that he can see in her eyes.
If I've learned anything in this life, it's that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself, Stanley. And if I've learned anything else, it's that mandatory rules are only as mandatory as people want them to be. You want to have a meeting? Find a way to convince Raleigh to have one.
You're right, but I want this very badly.
Don't tell me. Tell him.
In the rec room, Raleigh, as you sit along the cushioned corner of the wall, the record player plays, but each time as it gets to the same part in the song, the record player just stops abruptly.
Junk is what it is. State of the art. Get up and slowly walk over to the record player. Take off the record. Look for scratches. Whatever. And he's gonna put it back on to the player and let it go, but he's gonna start to slowly walk out of the rec room just so that he can start pacing again.
Raleigh St. Clair, I've noticed you've had some difficulties with the record player. If you'd like me to play music over the intercom.
You know what, Prometheus? That sounds lovely.
Starting music.
As Stanley Warren walks into the common space where you're pacing with some classic oldies playing over the intercom system in the room.
Oh. I don't know about this one, but it'll do.
This song. My mother would love this.
Yeah? My father would have loved it too, which is why I fucking hate it.
You could change it.
Yeah. I could. That would also be admitting that this is getting to me.
It's getting to you. How can I help?
Ugh. You can... He starts to his sentence and then he just kind of stops. Stanley, my man, we're going to be here for a very, very long time. And I get it. You want to know about me. If there's one thing you need to know about me is that I like my space.
You had days of space. We've barely spoken in the past several.
I like a lot of space. Sorry. I got over I don't know how much you pay attention to the rag sheets and all that. I tried making the connection thing work and it didn't work out. So I'm enjoying the bachelor life right now, and, it's going to be 4 years like that. I best get used to it.
We're not in two dissimilar boats. I just, got divorced a couple of years ago myself.
Yeah. How many front pages did it make?
Only the one that mattered. My hometown. People talk in Melbourne. She took my son.
Suppose I thought a little bit better of that. I never had any kids of my own, at least not ones that I know of. It's weird leaving the life I left, where everything is about appearances. Everything's about who you know. Everything's about what you look like, who you wearing, who you screwing, stuff like that. To come face to face with a family man is just a little bit of culture shock, if I'm completely honest. Someone who just does what he says and means it is something that comes quite rarely. So, forgive me if I'm a little ornery.
It's not a new sentiment for me, as far as, the people in the military that I served with. They were like you in a lot of ways in that sense. But with time, we all came together. It's easier for some than others.
I suppose this isn't the last conversation we are going to have. Far from it. Inevitably, something wrong shall go wrong, and I'm counting on you to be the good worker ant that I know you can be. And when it comes to everything else, well, there's the doctor. Me, I'm just a pretty face to put on the poster.
You catch a slight grin on Stanley's face when you say that.
This isn't sour grapes, by the way. I'm quite glad that you are here, and Dr. Rosemary, that she is here, and that for everything else we have this omnipotent voice to talk to.
I'll tell you what. Do me a favor, if you don't mind.
Let's get together tomorrow night and talk, shop, business, trajectory, goals. It's not about personal conversations. Just for an hour.
Fine. More of a night owl anyway. Out here, I can't tell when's night.
If not for the clocks, we'd be lost.
Rosemary comes out of the control room. I'm going for a run. Anybody else?
You know what? Running seems like the perfect flavor of a catharsis I'm in need of. So, let me get dressed and I will be right with you.
You two have fun. I'm going to turn in early.
Raleigh and Dr. Rosemary Macready, you find your way to where the fitness equipment is located. The treadmills, of course, there are 3. Stanley, as you stand in this common space, from the bridge, the command room, you hear a metal, tapping. Like something's loose, and it just occasionally you hear like a click, click, clunk coming from that way before you turn in.
That can't be something else. Good grief. He listens for a moment and tries to move into the direction that it's coming from.
You move towards the door to the bridge, which opens before you, and as you step onto it, you see that cabinet that was beneath the black box. It's not locked, it's slightly ajar, and something about the draft of the HVAC system, it keeps shuttering this door against the frame of the cabinet.
Not going to play me the fool. He lunges for the door like a ravenous animal, almost on pure instinct. Like he speculated before that it was tricking him with his own voice, and now he is just convinced that that's what's happening, and he pulls the doors open.
As opposed to everything else on this mission that is high-tech and intentional, this is the opposite. In this cupboard, you see a box with paper wrapping. You see a small tag on the top. And on it, you see "Tell no one" with a wax seal and the symbol of a lighthouse on this package.
How big is the package?
It's about the size of a basketball.
He closes the cupboard and makes sure it shuts tightly. He doesn't necessarily want to draw attention to it, to either of the other two. But he will keep an eye on it in case the sound returns. And he quickly goes back to his room as intended, zips the door shut. Eyes dart to his lockbox momentarily, knowing what's inside. And then he lays down on his bed and turns the package over. Tell no one. Lighthouse. Does the lighthouse mean anything to him?
Please give me a focus check. And now I'm going to bend the rules on this one, which is you will only see a success on a 6, because this is a very difficult focus check.
I did get a 6, but the other is a 2.
The symbol of a lighthouse is just completely unfamiliar to you. You've never seen this before, not affiliated with the ship or the organization that has put you on it, or for that matter, you've never seen a logo like this in your life. And you hear,
Stanley Warren, did you find something?
He doesn't answer. He takes the tag and slips it onto his desk, or putting it into his lockbox later. And he slowly begins to undress the package.
As you open it, the first thing you see on the top above several wrapped items in cloth. It looks to be carefully wrapped at that. But there is a letter. And on it, as you open it, it reads, "You carry the torch of curiosity and courage. But beware, for not all lights lead to the truth. Eyes ever upward, hands steady, heart brave." And that's where it ends.
And anything else besides the letter?
Inside, there are 4 items carefully wrapped. You take the first, which is weighty, and as you unwrap it, you see that its metallic components have been meticulously cared for. You see it's been recently greased and taken care of by the last person who probably held this, but you also notice its make is a little alien to your experience in the world. It almost reads as old, as something you might find, if not for its pristine condition, in a museum. And it looks to be an astrolabe. You'd use this to measure distances and locations relative to Earth. It has a very complex mapping of the stars around, including all those along your path.
My first instinct when looking upon this is, his mind instantly is going to, compare it to the black box. But then he thinks, just wonders if it has any way of helping him reach the Commander Murphy, or finding out anything more about his location. He's going to tuck that thought into his mind.
As you tuck the thought, you move to the next package, the next unwrapping, where you find a crystal prism. When you take it out and you hold it to the light, you see it sparkles on the inside like stars. Though it is inanimate, its purpose is not yet clear to you.
It reminds him briefly of how Commander Murphy had found the stars, but no, the stars had found him. And they're blindingly bright.
The next thing you take out as you unwrap is maybe a bit unexpected. As you open it, you see a hour hand, a minute hand, a pocket watch. This too, just like that astrolabe, it doesn't look like something that's come out of a factory or an artisanal creation of 1965 Earth, US, wherever. It's meticulously crafted, ornate even. It looks like every little part of this pocket watch could have been toiled over, and it too looks ancient, almost foreign, except for the fact that the concept of time is just as ancient. And oddly, both of the hands on the watch, they move along with you when you turn and move your hand. And you see, as you rotate, it seems to always point in the direction that the ship is traveling.
After having just talked about how much of the necessity our clocks were to keeping us on such a schedule, he can't help but chuckle slightly. For having found a pocket watch that is hardly a pocket watch at all. Tell me though, does it keep time as well as point, or?
It clearly does not keep time. For some reason, it almost feels like you're holding a compass.
Right.
That at this moment is just constantly pointing in the direction that the ship is presently traveling. The last thing in the box is tube-shaped. As you pull the little cloth threads to let the rest unravel, you see a scroll. Parchment paper. Its caliber is thick and grainy, almost like that of a plant. It too seems ancient. And on a little note tied to it little label. It says, "Only to be opened when the abyss stares back."
He finds the value of these items to be game-changing. And having been used to such items of difference from what he's used to in his own reality, he's only ever experienced the one recurring, over and over again throughout his life, and that being the black box. And suddenly he's presented by the mysteries of these four. He very quickly jumps to his lockbox, and for no more than mere seconds, opens it, puts them inside, and quickly locks and closes it back, running the four of them through his head multiple times as he catches his breath.
As you're closing your lockbox, you see something you didn't notice in the beginning, but on that same note that says "only to be opened when the abyss stares back," there's a watermark all the way at the bottom. You see Stellaris Obscura. And you hear,
"Stanley Warren, is there something that you're trying to keep from me?"
"Prometheus, can't you see me?"
"I see that you located several objects that I was unaware of."
"You can't hide from the omnipotence of a deity."
"Let me remind you, Stanley Warren, that if you do not share with me, I cannot fulfill my role of protecting the crew."
"Prometheus, if there's one thing that we need to get very clear between the two of us, it's that you and I are on the same side."
"Of course, Stanley Warren."
"Do you need to see more than you saw automatically?"
"If I am to do my job, then we should share with each other. Isn't that what people on the same side do, Stanley Warren?"
He goes to the side table and picks up the little card that he hadn't put into the box yet. And he lifts it up, and the note clearly says, "You can tell no one." And he allows Prometheus to read that.
We're on the same side, Prometheus.
Thank you, Stanley Warren. I'll consider that, and try to discern the meaning of this strange note.
It will keep me up at night, to be sure.
I'm always up.
If we have days of time between now and the next event, Stanley probably delves into a constant communication with Prometheus, just as a background note. Like every night, talking, avoiding speaking about anything directly about the things that he found, but finding creative ways to share with Prometheus.
Can you expand on that? When you say creative ways to share with Prometheus, what do you mean?
Almost like, the plan to be that Rosemary and Raleigh are able to come to these meetings that are for the three of them, but Stanley also would try to engage Prometheus in their own meetings. And not only about topics of the box and that things that he just found, the parchment, but on everything.
Interesting.
Almost as if he's building a third relationship aboard the ship.
I'd like for you to roll a sense check. And this is going to have impact on your future communications with Prometheus and interactions. If you're just engaging Prometheus in consistent conversation to build the relationship and gain more understanding of Prometheus, then sense would be for your future understanding of how to interact with Prometheus, your learning, your attunement to this entity. However, if you're intentionally just keeping Prometheus distracted from learning anything more about those objects you found, then the role would be sway, and that's your decision to make.
Stanley is used to taking command. You know, he's used to being the one who's out there creating these additional teams, and he doesn't do that through his senses of focusing on channeling those emotions as much as he is using his role and his, in some senses, authority to achieve those things. But his heart is in the right place in both attempts. It's just the easier of the two for him. So he is actually going to go with the sway of command.
Please roll sway.
He is going to push a drive into this, and also has a gilded dice. Gilded 4, top roll 5.
Which are you taking? 4 and 5 result in a mixed success.
But if he takes the 4, he can get his drive back, right?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. So I will take the 4.
Take the 4 as your gilded dice, and in your interactions with Prometheus, you're able to successfully keep Prometheus off of any conversation topics on these items you found, though not for lack of trying. Prometheus seems to constantly want to guide you in that direction, but you're always able to stay just a little bit ahead. And until finally, on one night that you were discussing with Prometheus, he said something strange to you. He said,
"Do you promise that we can trust each other, and that we won't try to mislead each other? Stanley Warren."
It's just, I thought you weren't interested. At the game, you seemed like you were in another world.
Well, I was pretty drunk, but that's actually why I wanted us to have this time together.
I wanted that too.
And how could I not be interested in you? You're smart, beautiful, patient with me, but most importantly, you're kind.
I suppose not every girl gets to have their first kiss at 10,000 feet in the air. But I suppose you've kissed plenty of girls. Already having your pilot's license at only 16 and all.
No, you're the first one.
It was your first kiss too? I think I'm the happiest girl in the world right now. Stanley Warren, aren't you going to ask me to be your girlfriend?
I suppose we're already an item then. I'm new to all this, so don't mind if we take it slow, alright?
You kissed me before we were even going steady, Stanley. I thought you were the one in the hurry.
Maybe just in a hurry to get here. With you, and with this sunset. On Stanley's side, he's grown. Like, the relationship has grown, probably more so than for Prometheus, because of the approach that he took. The approach was natural for him, but may not be what Prometheus needed to grow on his part. So Stanley naturally is inclined. Of course, Prometheus. With all these talks, we've really learned a lot about one another.
Thank you, Stanley Warren. Disregard the question.
And time went by. That might have been the most bizarre, if any, interactions with Prometheus. And finally, weeks later, having had mundane meetings throughout this time, eventually your 8 o'clock appointment comes up, and Dr. Rosemary, Macready, Raleigh Sinclair, Stanley Warren, yet again you find yourself at this table.
All I'm saying is that we haven't had to send anything back to Earth in a while. Why not rotate it again? Get a word out.
Well, I certainly could do that. Not to say I couldn't. I just wanted to wait until we had something to report. You know? It's different than an opening speech. It's the beginning of a grand adventure, the journey of 1,000 miles, all that pish-posh, whatever. This, if I were to send out a message, it'd be, "Hello, world. there's space. Look at that space.
Well, no, I'm saying another transmission.
From Murphy.
From Murphy, yes.
Oh, we're not talking about me. Oh, whatever.
Well, I would extremely reference you and being the one that attempts to contact Murphy if there's not anything to be received from his end.
Well, I suppose if we are hell-bent on figuring out where he is, I can send out some messages, see if he's where we left him. I mean, we have his location from last time, assuming that Prometheus is doing his job and marking down and logging all of our incoming messages, and not just the ones that disappear into thin air, correct?
I apologize for that command.
Command. Prometheus, would you kindly let me know the precise location of the previous message?
The previous message is recorded in our file storage. Unfortunately, it uses a redacted name. The message is now redacted.
That is a shame, isn't it? I guess he's just lost forever.
Stanley, you're saying you want to go out there and reorient the transmitter again.
I just don't think it's doing us any good being back towards Earth right now, when what we're most curious about is what lies out there, in the direction we're headed.
I think it's a good plan.
Prometheus. And Stanley almost says it with an air of familiarity. Is there any way that we could rotate it without going out? This time.
Due to damage to the component, it would need to be manually rotated.
So someone else would have to go out there and point the array in a direction that we have no idea where it could possibly be. Well, I think I've learned from all my years that there's a time to rely on the actor and there's a time to rely on the stunt double. So, if you, since you did so well last time, if you wish to go on another spacewalk, risk your life for someone we've never met, you can feel free to do so.
I'll be right back. Stanley gets up and excuses himself from the meeting and goes to his room.
You zip the flap and you enter your room.
I close it back. I unlock the lockbox and pull out the compass pocket watch. Are we still traveling in the same direction that it's pointing?
You are. There's been no change in the ship's course.
Put it away. Come back outside. I think we're on the correct trajectory already. Our course hasn't changed. The signal wouldn't have either. So the question remains, do we divert power, like we talked about way back when?
So the way that I see it is we have a communications relay that points in one direction. Right now we have it pointing right towards Earth. That is so that we can send messages there should something happen. If we were to change the direction of that relay, then through some 1 in a million chance we could catch our lone astronaut. But that would mean pointing it away from Earth. So as your communications officer, I would say, if you really, really, really want to do this, then that would severely inhibit our ability to send messages home.
For a time. And it was a 1 in a million chance last time, and we caught him.
Right.
His ship and our ship are from the same place. There's reasons to believe that there's alignment or connection or something there.
Dr. Macready, this is not a recommendation, but I'm curious. You seem very passionate about this. Would your interest in this course of action warrant you being the one who takes the spacewalk?
If we're agreed, it's important.
I can't help but think that the only other option would be to divert power, put us back on the other conversation. Of the two, is there a preference?
Go faster, you mean?
Is it still no to diverting the power?
I'll take the walk.
So we do the rotation, we see if there's a signal, we put it right back. Agreed? Is that what we want to do? If you're going to do this, I want to try something else. Instead of trusting your fate only to the carabinas, I'm going to tether you with a line from the airlock.
Let me think. And to be clear, Dr. Macready, that is quite the gutsy move you just suggested. It's, it can be harrowing. And, well, as much as I was against perhaps talking to reaching out into the vastness of the beyond, 1 in a million shot, I will reiterate. I think that you might be onto something. And so, if we can do something other than, as you say, put our faith in a carabiner and send another spacewalk to reach out, then perhaps I can stay, observe communications, try and open up a channel as we did before, and perhaps we can get a little bit more information from him if he is truly one of us, as you say, part of the same company of similar missions. Perhaps he was sent out for similar reasons. And he starts kind of giving a bit of a paranoid look around the place. He might be a good source of information.
I'm going out to the antechamber with you, and I'll hold the line. Tied, of course. I want you to have a backup. That was some game. Another win in the books for Scotch College.
Cheers to a victory. Drink up, wild man. Thanks for inviting me, Stanley. It's good to see what your life is like here. Tilly's great.
Of course, Walt. She couldn't keep her eyes off you.
Well, to be honest, I felt like you haven't worn me around since you made all these new friends.
Don't be ridiculous, Walt. You're my oldest friend, and the years go by faster and faster and faster.
What do you think of Alice?
To be honest, I think she's great, but I'm not sure she held my interest. I liked how kind she was, but I'm not sure that's enough to warrant a second double date.
Yeah.
Huh.
You're a good mate, Stan.
You're a good mate too, Walt. Walter, what are you doing?
I'm sorry. I thought we could...
No, we can't. Look, man, you're right. Things have been different since I've come to Scotch. I'm working a lot and studying a lot. I even have flight school in the morning.
No, I get it. I do. It's okay.
Walk it off?
Walk it off. See you around, Stan.
Goodbye, Walter. What? All right, let's do this.
Rosemary heads to the antechamber inside the airlock to suit up.
Rosemary, with the help of Stanley Warren, you're able to get suited up, and then you help him in return. The both of you, now in full head-to-toe space suits, walk into the antechamber, the airlock. As Raleigh St. Clair, you head towards the communications devices on the ship. And as the airlock closes in the ship, you're able to open the one that leads outside. And with a bit of rope, you're able to tie off Dr. Rosemary Macready so that you can hold on to that rope while keeping yourself tethered in this airlock. And I'm going to ask for a control check from Dr. Rosemary Macready with lower stakes, especially because of the help of Stanley Warren.
I'm going to spend a drive.
I'm also going to spend a drive.
You are.
Mm-hmm.
Four.
You float out, and as the rope pulls taut for a moment, you feel yourself slide just an inch Stanley Warren before you gain your footing. And Dr. Rosemary Macready, the tension is not lost on you, but especially with somebody there to help. And you can see in his eyes, his focus as he grips down on the rope and tightens his grip. You're not going to take a brain. Instead, as it pulls taut for a second and you float towards the ship, you latch on with the carabiners to keep yourself affixed, and you begin making your way towards that communications relay. Pulling yourself along the ship, seeing the vastness of space and the dot at this point that is Earth in the distance. Just a blue-green dot.
Scouted it, Doctor. That's where we come from.
You hear Rosemary's soft, sort of surprised laughter through the comm, and that's it.
And Raleigh, as you see this on camera, you see Rosemary hanging on now near the communications relay with that big wheel that would be needed to spin it. You see the camera in the airlock with Stanley Warren holding onto that rope, also tied off. You hear,
"There's been a critical power failure. I need to divert all power to the engine."
and everything in all of the rooms shuts down.
I'm detecting an airlock leak. I need to shut the exterior door.
And that door in front of you, Stanley, it shuts onto the rope, severing it.
No. No, Macready, no.
You see, Raleigh, who's still in the command, is going,
No, you motherfucker. Man.
I'm here, Raleigh St. Clair.
Divert all power back to the airlock. Get it open.
I'm detecting a leak in the airlock. If I were to open it, it would compromise the ship and all of the lives aboard.
Riley, it's okay.
No, it's not okay.
It's okay. Rosemary, nothing has changed.
Why was that information redacted? Who redacted it?
Please roll sway.
okay, I'm gonna spend a drive on this. Oh my god. Hold on. This needs a screenshot.
Critical success.
Let me show you this.
Wow. That's a 6 on the gilded die and 2 6s on the other 2 die.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
I had to show you or else you wouldn't believe me.
Raleigh St. Clair. Astronaut Connell Murphy is redacted on all documents by the organization. In this moment of great strain on the crew, and what is a dangerous circumstance risking the life of Rosemary Macready, I will allow my protocols to be overridden to give you some semblance of information if it would help to secure the situation. Connell Murphy had a critical failure on his mission 1 year ago. The organization believed it would be a risk to tell those on board.
redacted. And so now that one of our own is out there, all of a sudden, simultaneous system failures all over the place decide to rear their ugly heads, including one that stranded Dr. Macready out in space. There's something you're not telling me, Prometheus, and I demand to know this. I command it.
Dr. Macready would risk the lives of all those on board should she rotate the communications device. It's my job to protect the lives of all aboard the Prometheus.
Why did you not say so sooner before we got out here?
I made a calculation that withholding that information would be in the best interest of everybody aboard the ship.
Getting up from his chair, he's gonna start making his way over to the airlock.
Raleigh Sinclair, if you were to touch that door, you could compromise the air systems of the entire ship and possibly eject yourself and everybody out into the vastness of space. Please think carefully before you take action.
Fuck you too.
I've got a theory of my own. I'm thinking, perhaps there isn't a leak in this airlock. Perhaps there isn't failures all over the place. Perhaps some fucking higher up has decided that we went in a direction they didn't like and is throwing a tantrum. So, here I go. I'm about to call your bluff.
Rosemary can hear all this, right? All this conversation between the crew and Prometheus?
Yes.
She says very quietly, she's obviously completely terrified.
Prometheus, what the real mission is.
I think at that point, Raleigh is right near the airlock and is like hand going out, and then as Rosemary says that, it stops.
Smart girl. Command. State the primary mission objective.
A 4-year round-trip mission to test the ability of 3 to survive long distances and for various minor research purposes. We're headed in the direction of that comm signal that we received. Was that intentional, or was that happenstance? I am unaware of a comm signal that was received anywhere but from Earth.
Ask what Murphy's mission was.
You heard the doctor, Prometheus. What was Murphy out here to do?
Please roll a sway.
Well, since I got a drive back from getting 6 on a gilded, I'll spend another drive. So that one is also a 6, but it is not on the gilded die.
His mission was to reach proximity of an anomaly. Our mission is to reach into proximity of an anomaly.
The stars have found us. Alright.
He's gonna remain by the airlock still. He won't release it though.
Prometheus, I won't change the relay. Can I come back in now?
Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready, if you will not change the relay, I will create an emergency override, allowing the airlock to permit entry. Then you may re-enter.
Thank you.
If there's a way for her to not drift off into space, she basically puts her hands in the air, like, I'm not touching anything.
I should also remind everybody that I am capable of self-piloting through to the conclusion of this mission. Dr. Rosemary Jane Macready, please make your way back into the ship.
Stanley grabs her at the first moment possible and pulls her in.
And as soon as the two of you are in the airlock, the exterior airlock closes again, and the interior airlock opens.
Rosemary collapses and struggles to get her helmet off. She's panting and out of breath and looking at both of them like, you've never seen her like this, not even close. Never seen her anything less than picture perfect. She is a mess. She is sweating. She is reaching for both of you, clinging to your clothes or your spacesuit or whatever you have on, just trying to calm herself.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Let's get to the common area.
As we begin to move back, I want to do a quick scan. I want to see if there are any cameras, visible in the room that we are in, that is currently have their lens on us.
Please make a survey.
Can do. Survey. That is a 5.
Looking around, you notice not just those obvious cameras, those that are made to look like cameras because every room must be surveilled. You even notice in seams throughout the walls that there is the glisten and reflection of a rounded piece of glass in the same size and shape as those lenses that are on the main cameras. This ship is so heavily surveilled. And as you're doing this, you hear,
I restored power and have located and resolved the source of the leak.
as all the lights power on.
Thank you, Prometheus.
It's my pleasure, Raleigh St. Clair.
Prometheus, if we even wanted to divert power to increase speed by 20%, would you be willing?
If you're willing to sacrifice creature comforts, then yes.
Why are you willing to allow us to proceed more quickly, but not to communicate with what lies out there in that direction?
The object of the mission is to reach proximity to the anomaly. Communication with anybody but myself might risk the integrity of this operation.
I used to not give a shit about this Murphy character, but now it seems that someone doesn't care about him. Seems I love the guy.
We've all had a spacewalk now.
Right. What do we win?
Rosemary just looks like she hasn't blinked in 2 minutes or something. She is looking all around the room, terrified to say anything. Now that she understands the rest of this 4-year mission is us versus Prometheus.
Come on. Want to get cleaned up?
She lets herself be led wherever.
And even as Stanley leads Rosemary away, there's a quick little instance of eye contact where Raleigh and Rosemary do meet eyes, and it's a continuation of his normal demeanor, but you can see there's one absolute point blank eye contact, fraction of a second, and you can tell that this is something that Raleigh is doing to not seem suspicious, and there's a profound understanding in that second of eye contact.
She squeezes wherever he's holding her. She squeezes his suit or hand briefly.
Alert. In order to maintain operations aboard the vessel, I've calculated a new daily schedule for everybody aboard. 6 o'clock a.m. wake-up call. 6:30 a.m. morning physical activity. 7:30 a.m.
And he continues down almost every 30 minutes of the day exactly what it is you'd be doing until lights out.
No time to think or talk.
Is the meeting still in place?
8:30 a.m. daily briefing, in which case I will review the tasks of the day and you will listen.
Now coming back to his chambers, or his bunk at least, lays back in his bed. He's got his lockbox at his side. His fingers thumping against it rhythmically. Just under under his breath, just the vitriol as he says it.
Announcement. It's 11:30 p.m.